Hi everyone, so I'm going to give you some more conditioning exercises. So you can either use this as a warm-up or a cool down. I really like to do this as a warm-up after I do my physio, okay? So what we're going to do is, so this is just so you know, these are a lot of exercises that can really help out. The reason why I like this as a warm-up is because this really switches on your pelvic floor, your low abs, your glutes, and stabilizes those shoulders as well and kind of links everything together. So you're also using the full body in a lot of these exercises. So it really primes your body and gets ready to work in the correct way. This is also helpful for handstands. If you're doing hand balancing, this could also be something you do before that. Okay, cool. So let's start out. I'm going to give you a few different options, okay? But what you're going to do is the easier option are the legs are up like this. You are in handstand position, okay? So you're going to essentially do an L shape. If you're familiar with handstands, you're going to do like an L shape, which is what a lot of people do when they first are starting handstands. So like kicking up into a handstand with one leg being really tall towards the ceiling and one leg kind of hovering like this. So we're going to hold this L shape, and it really teaches us correct handstand shape. And also we really work your endurance and stability here. So if you're not familiar in terms of handstand shape, shoulders really pushing to the ears. Keep those shoulders open, so not closed. So shoulders open, but keep the ribs closed, okay? So pull those ribs down through the back of your body into the floor. Yeah, we also want to tuck underneath the butt. Yeah, scoop underneath the butt. I'll do it again. Scoop underneath the butt. So we're really engaging underneath the butt. And we'll squeeze the inner thighs through lifting through the pelvic floor and low abs. So you also want to imagine like the seatbelt analogy of like putting on a tight seatbelt. So you're like sucking in the low abs. This whole area is super important. Okay, so not lifting the ribs, and you can even try breathing without lifting the ribs and with engaging the pelvic floor and low abs and engaging the hips and keeping the legs together. You can even practice this first, and you can add this on to your sets if you want. You could start with, if you want to add that on, you could start with having one hand on the ribs and one hand on the low abs and trying to engage the low abs and pelvic floor without moving the ribs. Yeah, so you could do this for about 45 seconds, really get in your body. And then you can add on, or you could do 20 seconds and then 20 seconds of this second exercise, this awareness exercise, which is same thing, except for after we really find that low abs and pelvic floor with the seatbelt metaphor. You're thinking about also wrapping around the outside of that butt and lifting through the pelvic floor to squeeze those inner thighs together. Yeah? So, shoulders to the ears. So after you've done that, or once you're used to that, shoulders to the ears, handstand position, ribs down, tucking underneath the butt. I'm not opening my legs, I'm squaring my hips, okay? So the easier version is here, hovering this bottom leg off the floor for, you could do 20 seconds if you need an easier version, but ideally 45 seconds here and 45 seconds here. You could also do 20 and 20. If you're doing the 45-second option, you can have a 15-second rest in between each leg, yeah? And really stay super active, like really zip through the pelvic floor and low abs. So like buckle that seatbelt, really scoop under the butt, keep those hips locked, keep those inner thighs pulling together, push those shoulders to the ears, keep the ribs closed, yeah? There's a lot to think about, okay? So that's why you have 45 whole seconds to think about it. A harder option, I like to do this version, legs up. Okay, so I like to start with the band around the first leg. And I'm using the loosest band I have now. Just make sure it remains there's tension on the band and that it doesn't snap. Pull the bottom leg down so you're in this position, this handstand position here, okay? And hold either 20 seconds and then switch 20, or 45 seconds, 15-second rest, switch 45 seconds, and really hover this bottom leg off the floor, because this leg is like, imagine you're in a handstand. That's the goal, so that we can actually do our handstand shape after, and we can hit it. Yeah, so 45, 15-second rest, 45. Okay, after that, what you're gonna do, grab a block. To figure out this shape, you can kind of do a downward dog on the elbows. Squeeze the block in between those elbows, okay? Hands shoulder width apart. Really don't let those hands come together. Don't let the elbows come away from the block, okay? So you're gonna be slightly piked. You need to play around with it to find the shape. You know you're in the correct position when you can squeeze the elbows and push up to a really strong, really straight plank, okay? Like you shouldn't be here or like here, yeah? Here. And then slowly back down, letting the elbows lead, and I'm really engaging through the pelvic floor, okay? 45 seconds on here, just doing this continuously. And I really want good shape for contortion handstand. So or contortion elbow stand. So we're pushing up. So through the chest, you're really pushing here. Yeah, you're pushing up as if there's a beach ball right in here, and we want to push it away. You're also squeezing those elbows together and locking the outside of that shoulder right here. Okay, same thing for the handstand, really pushing up in here and locking. Okay, all right, 45 seconds on, 15-second rest. Okay, cool, moving right along. The next exercise, keep your block. What you're gonna do, you're gonna put the block in between the legs like this. You're gonna lay on your back. You're gonna pull that belly button down into the floor. Close those ribs. You're gonna pull like about 4 fingers above the pubic bone down into the floor. Yeah. Your hands are gonna go behind your head like this to start, okay? You're gonna have, so I kind of like to go here and then really make sure that low back is rounded. The shoulders are gonna be off the floor, so really push those ribs down. The knees are in front of the hips slightly, okay? We're bringing our heels down to the floor, not just the toes like this. This is what most people do. Make sure you're not doing that. I'm not there to call you out, so watch it. Make sure like that you're watching yourself so you don't do that. Okay, so keep those elbows open. You want to pull those heels down to the floor, squeezing the block in between the legs too. And as you're squeezing the block, think of squeezing the inner thighs, initiating from the movement of lifting up in the pelvic floor. Okay, so the pelvic floor and the inner thighs are connected. Okay, that's what we want to imagine and think about. Okay, so here, either 20 seconds of this with a 15-second rest. And I'm really wrapping the outsides of my hips too, so you don't get this. Yeah. And then, so if you do, you can either do 20 seconds, 15-second rest, or if you want to be a bit more difficult, aim to do 45 seconds with 15-second rest. Shoulders pushing to ears then, so handstand position, and same thing. Ribs closed, pelvic floor lifted, inner thighs squeezing. Here, out, and back. Yeah? Okay. Okay, after that, 15 seconds rest after you finish. What you're gonna do is you can put the arms down for it being a bit easier, or arms up will be a little bit harder. You wanna be on the toes, okay? And you wanna slowly roll up through the back, but a really, really straight back, okay? So I'm not like doing this, I'm not arching. The hips are really tucked. I'm really scooping underneath my butt, and I have a flat back. So I'm really lifting up through the pelvic floor and low abs, keeping my back flat. So arms above, on my toes, rolling up, engaging, wrapping through the outside of those hips, flat back. Then at the top, my knees squeeze together, keep the butt up, knees come apart, and slowly, so don't arch at the top, stay flat, and slowly come down and stay flat. And then at the very bottom, you can roll down, and you can really make sure to emphasize that pelvis tuck at the very end and lift through that pelvic floor. Yeah, and then go again, okay? So 45 seconds nonstop of this, 15-second rest, okay? All right, perfect. Last thing, you're gonna be here on your hands and feet, really straight and tall plank. You're gonna lift one leg, bring it out to the side, and bring it back. Yeah, keep the body flat, lift through the pelvic floor. Here, about here, and back. 5 times, and then 5 times on the other side. Okay, I know I said that that's the last thing, but very, very last thing, okay? Last thing that I want you to do. And this is another one that I want you to be quite internal about is I want you to grab a block, put it in between your thighs, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna imagine that there's a bungee, okay, like a tight bungee between your hip and your knee, okay? So knees are gonna be up. You're gonna have a flat back lifting through the pelvic floor. We're gonna drop the we're gonna drop the knees to one side, but really feel that connection between right on the inside of that hip bone and this knee, okay? So the bungee is here to this knee, okay? And you're slowly stretching that knee away. And then when we pull it back, you're slowly tightening up and controlling the comeback of that knee. So we're here. I'm really, really engaging, lifting through my pelvic floor and low abs. I'm squeezing the block. It's a bit twisted, but I'm squeezing the block. And then I lift through the pelvic floor, initiating the motion. And then on the other side, same thing. And don't go lower than you can control, okay? You can also make it a little bit harder by tilting so the knees are slightly below instead of, here or here. You could put them here and that makes a difference. I know it's not much, but it does. And then on this hip, really pulling away. So that bungee is pulling and creating that space. And I'm really engaging my pelvic floor and low abs. And then I'm really wrapping the outsides of those hips too. And then I'm pulling it back. Yeah, and my back is flat. Yeah? So I'm going really slow, trying to keep my shoulders on the floor. And back. Yeah? Cool. Okay, 45 seconds for that one too. But it's super important, for all of them to be really internal, but especially the last one, if you're just flopping side to side, it's not gonna be doing much, okay? Okay, try it out. Let me know how it goes. Tell me how it affects your training. Yeah, okay, have a good night.